It's super. It's rad. It's Reaganomics. It's Super Rad Raygun from TRU FUN Entertainment, published by Screw Attack and Rooster Teeth, and a bunch of video content production sites that have decided to barf out this game. It is developed by TRU FUN Entertainment, made on the lovely FMA engine, developed by the lovely and occasionally sexy Flibit-Jijibibibo. What is it? It's the year 1980X. Big hair is hot, and the war with the Soviets is colder than a refreshing glass of new Coke. Rad Raygun must travel the world fighting communist robots and save the 1980s by shooting his way through a decade of totally fresh, expanded version of the original XBLIG game. Good old XBLIG. It's my favorite of all the bligs, including ZBLIG. So let's kick this off. It's the CHAIRQUISITION. 1 chair means that it's crap. 2 chairs means that it's meh. 3 chairs means that it's pretty good. 4 chairs means that it's awesome. We also got our categories of doom, mixed with working, shining sounds, controls, and fun. So let's kick this off. Then tear down this wall.
Yes, Mr. Kaneda Gorba. I don't know where if I can go with that. All right, let's get into it over here on the box of business, running the Ubuntu 1604 980 powered 4K displayed with somewhere hidden in its mysterious canaverous, maybe? An 8150 running at 4 gigajoules with 8 gigajoules of memory. It's got some issues. Whew. Okay, genuinely it does. Here's the thing. If you start it, it's going to start in windowed mode. And it's like, okay, there's a full screen button. Boom, I hit the full screen button. That's great. I play around and get done, rage quit, come back, it starts back in windowed mode. All right, doesn't remember that. So then I decided to get a bit fancy and enabled full screen. And then I was like, oh, no, I want to minimize it and put it in windowed mode. It went back in windowed mode. And I was like, fuck it, I want to play it back in full screen again because squirrel, it wouldn't go back into full screen. This is a bug. It is reproducible. So, I'm not saying you can't play it in big picture mode, but you're definitely going to have to do some fuckery in order to get that working. But it technically works. And so it gets technically 2 chairs.
Yeah, the full screen thing is a real deal. But on Fedora 24 64-bit with GTX 980, an i7 6700K, 32 gigs of RAM, and a bunch of SSDs and some random JBOD configuration. It ran perfectly fine. I was playing it in window anyways because I like having stuff in a corner and using the full real estate of my 4K monitor. But I mean, it's forever locked at 60 FPS because VSync is on permanently, and it's not like changing that would really affect the game's performance at all. So I'll give it 3 chairs.
Yeah, no, there are no resolution options. None whatsoever. You only get the quote-unquote full screen option after
No, I did
already...
find out you can change it in the config file if you go digging around. But
yeah, you can change it in the config file, or you can go in-game itself and then switch it into full screen. And if you do enable full screen, it doesn't change the resolution to whatever your monitor is doing. It just upscales the game from 720p to whatever resolution your monitor is currently doing. Now, chances are, in 2017, you expect a game to remember, the option settings. Not Super Rad Raygun. Oh, no. Because if you want it to remember your settings, it just gives you a big ol' fuck you. The first time I was playing through the very first level, my character clipped through the floor and I could do nothing else. There's actually a screenshot of that on my Google Plus stream if you happen to be a plusser. I managed to find an enemy that was close enough to the ground where I could just kill myself, and then I restarted. I played all the way through the level. Then I tried to go back in because apparently I missed a battery. Those are kind of important in this game. And when I finished it again, it tried to check my time against the internet times, and the game crashed. Really? This isn't going to be pretty. 2 chairs.
Just as a side note, if you are a Google Plus user and colloquially refer to yourself as a plusser, I highly encourage you to consider drinking bleach. But that's 2 chairs for mix with the working. Up next is Shiny and Sounds.
Okay, we got to look at this. What you're seeing on the video, Pedro has it in, oh my god, my eyes bleed mode. And it normally has your standard greenish Game Boy color palette.
It's the only visible one.
Okay, Pedro's wicked blind too. When you start, you basically have these 2 palettes. You have your Game Boy, your standard looking one, and this Red Nightmare Fuel piece of ooh. So between those two initial palettes, I like to call one nope, and the other one can't make shit out on the screen, much like the original Game Boy, if we're being honest, minus the motion blur, which was also an extra challenge back in the days. It is being true to the source, though. You only get 4, air quote, around colors on screen at any time. Now, I did find out that if you disable the hipster pixel grid effect, it helped out a bit. Not that it remembers that option, because remember, ladies and gentlemen, this game doesn't remember shit. It's got fucking Alzheimer's, son.
Just like Reagan.
No, it's not. Maybe that they'll use that as an excuse. When you disable, the blockiness and the pixelness, it looks like something maybe from a high-def NES or an emulator. I'm guessing what the developer thought that these games look like versus what they actually look like, and it's not fugly. Kind of like it. It's kind of grown on me. But with the music, you got hipster pixels, so here comes the fucking chip tunes. Woo woo. All right, the train's pulling into the organ. They're not bad, but they are way overdone for anything ever on the original Game Boy. There's too much meat on them, girth on them, man. But I kind of like it. I really do. For a hipster pixel game, I don't get to do this often, but 3 chairs.
Yeah, I mean, I played my share of platformers on the original brick Game Boy, riding in the car, trying to find the street lamp that would allow me to see what the hell was on the screen. Yeah, if you did that, the struggle. It's real. It was a problem. But, yeah, it was. I mean, this game looks a lot better than anything that was on the Game Boy because, like Ben said, the people who made this didn't actually play the original brick Game Boy. I mean, the sprites are fairly well designed. Everything is clear cut. And again, it looks more clear than what you'd ever get on a Game Boy. They have this weird visual effect where once you start running low on battery, the screen starts whiting out, and that gave me a bit of a PTSD flashback to my childhood when I had to deal with the actual 4 AAA or the 4 AA batteries in my Game Boy dying and realizing, shit, there's not enough time. I don't have enough gameplay left. But yeah, like Ben said, the soundtrack is all right. It's a bit derivative, though, because I hear a bunch of stuff from other games, including Pokemon, of all things. I mean, it's definitely possible. It's not going to win any awards for it. I'll give it 2 chairs. It's kind of meh.
So you start with only the Game Boy palette, which even in an 80 million to 1 contrast ratio IPS display, it's still pretty fucking hard to see when you're moving around, and I lost track of my character countless times. I get that they were trying to go for the original Game Boy experience and, maybe artificially inflating the difficulty by limiting just how much of the game you as a player can see. But you know what that tells me? That they let their pretentiousness as a developer get the best of them and stuck to their vision in detriment of the game. That's not good. And the chiptunes, yeah, those were muted within the first 5 minutes. So for me, you're looking at 1 chair.
Well, that's 2 chairs for Shiny and Sounds. Let's rock and roll with Control. That rhymes. Ha. I'm a poet, and I did not realize it at the time, which is a haiku. Ben, talk to us.
Oh, okay. With the controls, when you first start out, Super Brad, he controls it's a bit meh. It's kind of funky. It's a bit sloppy. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. Not bad, but you're really thinking they should have tightened up the controls, Brad, and you really are. But if you stick with it and build up your agility, it becomes quite enjoyable, quite playable, nay, almost passable. But the controls definitely lose a chair like all other fuck-mothering settings in this game loses every time you restart it. Because I kind of wanted to remap some things. You can remap them, but guess what? It completely forgets about the controls every time you do this, and that is a genuine pain in the ass. So I gotta give it 3. I should give it 2, but here's the thing: the default controls for this are logically laid out.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what did you want to actually remap? What kind of controls did you actually want to remap in this
just
game?
Jump and fire. They didn't feel right to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, the walk cycle in this feels really, really slow, and I guess once you get enough batteries to upgrade your agility and actually get some of the mobility options, that might be a little better. But I was not patient enough to get to that point, and so I had to suffer through it. Everything works though. Though the one thing I found a little bit disappointing, and it's enough to ding at a chair, is despite it being FNA, which actually has logic for correct button prompts, I got Xbox prompts on my DualShock controller. So I'll give it 3 chairs for control.
Yeah, it is very much FNA. So if the controls were broken, it would have made it plainly clear that they had put out an absolutely horrible game on purpose. But the controls work. For the most part, it still only gets 3 chairs because it doesn't remember the remapped controls.
That's why you got to do it through Steam, man. But anyways, that's 3 chairs for controls. Let's finish this off. Ben, did you have fun with Super Rad Raygun?
It's a big game of chance. I have a distinct feeling that this game was designed by a team that were probably not alive in 1989. Hashtag old man Vin. But they got a few things right here. Because if you're doing old school, with that limited bit of room, you got limited lives. You have an old school health bar. I don't mind that. You die. Guess what, son? Start back from the beginning of the level when you run out of those lives. There's no difficulty option. Really digging that. And if you go from the enemies off screen and you go back, the enemies come back like they did in the old days. Lovely. Get off my lawn. Hell, I even kind of wish there's a checkpoint system. I kind of wish they'd gotten rid of that and just made it old-fashioned Nintendo hard. But what you're here for is to... How was it? Well, let's talk about that. It's like Mega Man, Mario 3, Zelda 2, and a bag of mushrooms shagged and had a baby. It is.
Sounds kinky.
It's kind of kinky, but unfortunately that baby, it came out functioning a lot like Sloth from the Goonies at first.
It sounds extra kinky.
Because, I mean, if you haven't made it to Berlin in this game, you haven't seen how challenging it can actually be. And it's kind of a sad thing, man. Sad thing, Brad, because most people will not make it there because it takes well over an hour, sometimes 2 hours, to reach that point. And that's a big fucking ask to put into a game. And it also takes you past your refund point. But if you do, you will get rewarded with a wicked hard and properly done platforming. You get all your batteries together, you learn the mechanics of the game, you get some new enemies, some new environments, and you rescue Nelson Mandela from prison. That's also in there. The humor's it's hit or miss, but sometimes it's just like, what? There's one time Super Rad's like, oh, they've spilt all this oil in the ocean, and Reagan was like, oh, think of the poor oil companies losing all their profits. And I was golf clapping at that. Unlike these lot, I kind of liked it. I give it 3 chairs. I put 5 hours into it, and I might put a few more.
Yeah, to me, it just kind of seems like a middle-of-the-road platformer. I get the feeling that they're sort of banking on the visual aesthetic and a misguided sense of nostalgia to generate sales. But that's really not enough. The battery juggling mechanic is actually really interesting. I like the idea of like, oh, you don't have access to all your abilities at once and you have to prioritize which ones you really need. And they give you they actually give you a good array of like stuff that you can do. It's just a matter of hunting down the batteries. And if you don't have enough batteries, you got to do a lot of switching, which I find really disrupts the gameplay. And I'm ultimately not a fan of it. It's one of those examples of a mechanic that had a good conceptual start, and then when it came to execution, didn't quite do it. Also, I don't really remember the Game Boy having left and right shoulder buttons, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah,
I feel a lot of the I didn't get to Berlin like Ven did, but I feel a lot of the difficulty stems from the sort of loosey controls and the awkward walk cycle. There's weirdness too, where like you can do jump cancels and whatnot, but it just stops your ascent. You descend at the regular speed, which is a little annoying, especially when you need to do some precision stuff and some tight maneuvering. And yeah, I mean, ultimately it's just meh. It doesn't really do anything to stand out from the dozens of other platformers I had to play on Linux Gamecast. I mean, it's competently done. Nothing is terribly broken aside from not memorizing any of your settings, which is, really bad on you developers. But I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't really like it either. I got to give it a middle of the road score, 2 chairs.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it a lot.
What,
Yeah.
So Pedro, would you say you're better better dead than rad?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because it was actually an exercise in frustration playing in this game, but I'll get to that. Now, if you've been watching us long enough, chances are you probably remember everything I said about ASMR 2, or AM2R, as it was actually called. Because, well, even if you don't, willing to...
I'm sorry, I'm just watching Pedro's video of this. You suck at this game.
Yes, I do. I had absolutely no intention of ever getting better at it. It's not even installed anymore. Now, here's a few bullet points to help you remember what I said about AM2R. It serves no other purpose than to reinforce my belief that nostalgia grabs have worn out their welcome. They really, really have. It does absolutely nothing new to innovate the platformer genre. It doesn't. It's literally a fucking nostalgia grab. Hipster pixel visuals. Yes, and it's actually made even worse because of the pointlessly limited color scheme. And then I hear some people shouting in the background, but that's the whole point! Well, if that's the point, if that's their selling point, they have bigger problems than me shitting on their game right now. The annoying quote-unquote chiptunes, the likes of which can only be rivaled by a Pulse Audio buffer underrun. And last but not least, just to make everything even worse, they will expect that you do some bullshit leaps of faith if you want to get all of the batteries in any given level. That's not level design. That's asinine, and it turns the game into an exercise of trial, error, and frustration. One chair.
All right. Well, that totals up to 2 chairs for the fun section and 2 chairs for the final score. So, gentlemen, final thoughts?
Well, I really think I know why I like this, because the 2 games I had for my original old-fashioned Get Off My Lawn Game Boy was Mega Man, like Revenge of Dr. Wily's, the first one that ever came out, and Super Mario World. And of course I had the pack in Tetris, but after you beat that, make the rocket ship take off the first time, he's like, throw that thing away. I played the shit out of those. And I also played the shit out of Mega Man 2 on the NES, and I was really digging that. And it kind of has that feel. I mean, it's a bit of an homage to it. It's not quite there, but it was clearly done just with a lot of love and a lot of attention to detail that you don't normally see. I mean, there's no way even Pedro could call this a piece of shovelware.
Oh, it's not shovelware. It's just bad. It's really, really bad. And enough is enough, because goddamn hipster pixel nostalgia grab retro-inspired platformers are a dime a dozen on Steam nowadays. They're not fun. They don't look good. Hell, in Super Rad Raygun, I could barely see what was happening half the time. So I guess that's a plus. Just stop. Please.
I mean, there's stuff to like about this game. It definitely does have a sense of humor. Like I said, the battery mechanic is interesting. If you can sort of get past the whole disruptive thing, then it's a neat mechanic. I don't know. I was just playing this and going, okay, when does this become weird, or when does this start bucking my expectations? Apparently, it turns into Flappy Bird at one point once you get a jetpack, according to Venn. So maybe there's some impetus to play a little bit more, but it's a pretty tough cliff to get over. If you want to apparently get to the part of the game where it's actually fun. Why can't the game just be fun from the get-go? Why can't it just build up and become even more fun and become a really nice experience? It's just kind of meh to me. If this game comes on sale for like super cheap, maybe pick it up. It's not, you're not, I don't think you're going to hate it, but I mean, that's all up to you.